Okay, in video 1B, we talked about what a triad is, how we spell them, had a little bit of an introduction into voicing them. If you'll recall, we had the C major scale. We took 1, 3, and 5 using tertian harmony, the rules of tertian harmony. We stacked it up, and that gave us a C major triad spelling. Then we could voice it by using all of those notes and putting them on our instrument in any order, in any fashion, in any octave. Okay, of course, we know that there are not just major harmonies. Music would be really boring if we only had major chords. Okay, so we have 4 different triadic harmonies, 4 different ways that we can affect the 1, 3, and 5 to create different harmonies. Okay, I've listed them from most common to least common in the triad world. Major and minor triads are about equally as common. Diminished triad, a little less common. You're not going to see them quite as often. And augmented triads, you just don't see that much. Okay? The major triad uses 1, 3, and 5 of the major scale, as we talked about before. The minor triad has a flat 3, so 1, flat 3, 5. The diminished triad is 1, flat 3, flat 5. The augmented triad is 1, 3, sharp 5. Okay, down here, I've listed common chord symbols for these. There are a lot of different chord symbols, and we'll go over that another time for a major triad, minor triad, diminished, and augmented triads. But here are some common ones. There are variations of these that you'll see. And what I want to do is write down the notes, spell the triad for each of these. Okay, so if we start with our C major, we only have to find 1, 3, and 5, C, E, and G. And I can stack that up down here. That's 1, 3, and 5 of the C major scale. And that's how I spell my C major triad. My C minor triad simply flats the 3. So again, I'm going to start out with my major 1, 3, and 5. And then all I have to do is add a flat next to the third. So there's 1, 3, 5. Here's 3 right in the middle. So if I add a flat to that, that is now a C minor sound. And I'll play that for you in a second. The C diminished is a 1, flat 3, flat 5. So any diminished triad is 1, flat 3, flat 5 of the roots major scale. In this case, the root is C. So I'm going to start by, again, stacking the major. Okay? Then I have to flat the third and the fifth. So flat the third, 1, 3, 5, and then the fifth is the one on top. C, E flat, G flat spells a C diminished triad. Now C augmented, 1, 3, sharp 5. So again, I'm going to start by stacking up my major triad. So I can come over here and look at that. I see C, E, and G, or I can look at my scale, 1, 3, and 5. And I stack up C, E, and G. Sorry, when I said 1, 3, and 5. 1, 3, and 5. That's how I got my notes, right? C, E, and G. And I know that the 5 has to be sharp. This is 1, this is 3, this is 5. So I can sharp that, and that is how I spell a C augmented triad. Just really quickly, to give you a little bit of an oral idea of what we're talking about. If I play C major, it's going to sound like this. 1, 3, 5. If I play C minor, it's going to sound like this. 1, flat 3, 5. If I play C diminished, it's going to sound like this. 1, flat 3, flat 5. And then C augmented is going to sound like this. So these are the 4 triadic harmonies for C major. Now, what if we had a different key? how would that affect our activity? How would that affect how we spell these? Okay? I'm going to do this for A major. So first I'm going to write out my A major scale. Now I happen to know that my A major scale has F, C, and G sharp in it. And that's because I know my key signatures really well. I know I'm bragging. Okay, there is my A major scale. Okay, and down here, I'm going to write out my 4 A triadic harmonies. A major, A minor, A diminished, and A augmented. So now I'm going to figure out the spellings for those harmonies. Okay, so think about how I would spell my C major triad, and the same applies here to A major. I'll use tertian harmony, that harmony of thirds, to first stack my A major triad by taking notes 1, 3, and 5, degrees 1, 3, and 5 of the major scale. So let me circle those. 1, okay, 3, and 5. You see how I take every other. See how I skipped 2, I skipped 4. And that's my tertian harmony. We could go over the treatises that were written on harmony and on music in the 1600s that talked about this kind of stuff, but that's a long video, and you guys have Google. So I can stack this up. 1, 3, and 5. A, the third, is C sharp, and the fifth is E. Okay? Now I go to A minor. So A, C sharp, E is my major, A major triad. Now I go to my A minor. A, C sharp, E. Okay, that is A major. I need it to be A minor, which means I need to flat the third. If I put a flat next to that sharp, it cancels it out. Okay, the sharp had raised the C. I put the flat next to that sharp. I've now lowered the C a half step, so I just have C natural. So ACE is how I spell my A minor triad. Here's A diminished. I'm going to start from the major. Notice I'm starting from the major every time. A, C sharp, E. That's how I spell my major. I need it to be diminished, so I need to flat the third and flat the fifth. So remember, when I write that flat next to that sharp, it cancels it out. A, C, E flat. Okay, so I'll do that one more time. I started out with A, C sharp, E. I had to flat the third and the fifth in order to create a diminished harmony. Flat the third, that cancels that sharp out. Then I've got to flat the fifth, and I end up with A, C, E flat, which is my A diminished harmony. Augmented. So again, I'm going to start with major, A, C sharp, E, start with my A major, and then I want to make it into an A augmented by sharpening the fifth. So I just put a sharp next to that 5. Okay? So I could do this with any of the notes. I can see it a little easier. I can do this with any of the notes as my root. So if I started with an E flat, I could write out the E flat major scale. Take 1, 3, and 5 of that, and that would give me an E flat major chord. And then I could create the other 3, or all 4, of my triadic harmonies once I have that major. So the key is to find the major first, and then to adjust for the other 3 harmonies. Okay? All right. So you guys are going to fill out your alphabetical triad sheet. And I'll have instructions for that on Google Classroom.